Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Snowmass Village Squirm Night, a 2020 election event brought to you by GrassRoots TV, the Aspen Daily News, and the Aspen Times. I'm David Krause, editor of the Aspen Times and the Snowmass Sun, and I'm here along with Megan Tackett, the editor of the Aspen Daily News.
Tonight, we are talking with the candidates for the Town of Snowmass Village's mayor's seat, which is open because outgoing Mayor Marky Butler is term limited. We'll be talking with the two mayoral candidates, Bill Madsen and Tom Goode, for the next 45 minutes or so. Both currently sit on the Snowmass Town Council. After that, starting at 6 p.m., we will talk with the 5 candidates vying for the 2 open council seats. Just a few notes before we get started. We are inside the Snowmass Town Council chambers and have confirmed our plan with the Pickens County officials. We have no audience and fewer than 10 people and are also socially distanced this evening.
And as for voting, if you are a registered Pickens County voter, you should have already received your ballot in the mail. They can be returned in drop boxes outside the Snowmass Village Town Hall, the Pickens County Administration Building in Aspen on Main Street, and the Basalt Town Hall now through 7 p.m. on Election Day. On-site early voting started Monday in Aspen at the Aspen Jewish Community Center on Main Street. And a reminder, election night is November 3rd. For more information on locations or to register to vote, go to pitkinvotes.com. Snowmass voters also have to decide on the ballot issue 2A, which is asking for an extension of a property tax for Aspen School District, and as well as 4A, which is a $91 million bond issue for the school district.
After posing a few questions specific to each candidate, our format for tonight will entail a series of questions, response, and rebuttals. Each of you will be posed with the same question. One of you will have 2 minutes to answer, followed by the other having the same 2-minute opportunity to answer the same question. Whomever answered first will have 30 seconds for a brief rebuttal. We will alternate between candidates regarding who answers a question first and thus who gets the rebuttal. For now, we'll start with a 2-minute opening statement for each candidate. Bill and Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Bill, we'll let you go first with your 2-minute opening statement.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Bill Madsen. I was born and raised in Aspen. I've lived in Snowmass Village for 26 years. I am a product of employee housing. My folks moved to Aspen in the late 50s and built what might be considered as some of the first employee housing, the Madsen Chalet. My mom still runs 9 apartments, some of the most inexpensive lodging in town for locals. After I went to the University of Colorado, I moved back to Aspen, worked for Bob Beatty at Worldwide Ski Corporation. I was fortunate enough to move into Williams Woods employee housing. When I met my then-to-be future wife, who is a 40-plus year local here in Snowmass, she convinced me to take a look at the Crossings neighborhood. We've lived in that neighborhood for the past 26 years. About 15 years ago, former Mayor Dick Wall, due to health concerns, moved to Florida. We had the opportunity to move up the street into his house. So I almost feel obligated to run for mayor living in the former mayor's house. It really is an honor, and it's an amazing neighborhood. And we as a council have done a great job of forecasting towards new employee housing going forward. But one of the things that I think is most important in Snowmass is to make sure that Snowmass Village is fun. Snowmass is based on recreation. The foundation of this community is based on recreation. So I may have a BA from the University of Colorado, but I jokingly say I have a PhD in recreation. I have been able to take advantage of everything this valley has to offer in the past 55 years, from skiing and snowboarding to uphilling and downhilling and cross-country, hockey, rafting, kayaking, ballooning. I mean, every opportunity that this valley presents itself, I've been able to take advantage of. So I think it's really important that fun is a major part of what Snowmass is known for. And if you think that's a frivolous political statement, I challenge you. Why did you come to Snowmass Village? I would bet you it's because of recreation.
Thank you very much. Tom, your 2-minute opener.
Okay, thank you for having me, and David and Megan, thanks again for hosting us here, and my nerves have settled down, and good thing I had to work today. And the long and short is, I came to Colorado in 1973. I was an educator. I was a school teacher, high school teacher. I played high school football, college football. So I was a shop teacher, a wood shop teacher, and I was also the assistant football coach. I decided I wasn't quite satisfied, so let me go out west, and I'm going to try skiing. I think I saw a ski film one time with the hot dog contest in Aspen Mountain, Bell Mountain. I said, you know what, I'm going to go there, so, and I did. And I wound up in Aspen. I didn't know a soul, came to town, and I was only planning on staying for 1 year, and met a bunch of people that first day, played flag football and stuff in the Aspen flag football league and stuff, and got to know a lot of good people and stuff. I lived in Snowmass. This was 1973. Well, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family that were all plumbers. My dad, my brother, my dad's brother, my dad's brother's son, and so on. I knew the business, but I didn't really want to do plumbing and heating at the time. And sure enough, I started working for a plumbing heating company in Aspen, Ace Plumbing, as a matter of fact, and I realized I know a lot more about plumbing than these guys. They own the company. Well, I didn't come here to do that. I could have stayed in the East Coast if I wanted to do that. So I started to ski every day. I got a job at the Crestwood Lodge as a bellman, and I was fortunate enough to get a bartending job at night, which was very unheard of back in the early 70s. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to ski every single day. I did, and I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go back. So I stayed and moved into Aspen. It was kind of lonely out here in the early 70s in Snowmass. It was a very quiet little village. I stayed out here. I was fortunate enough to have a little apartment. Stayed here for a while. Moved back into Aspen so I didn't have that kind of commute at night at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Long and short of it is, I started working for the town of Snowmass. They asked me to join their volunteer board on the Board of Appeals. I did. I was a member of the Board of Appeals before I joined council for 33 years, and stayed with them for a lot of years, and moved back up here to Snowmass in, I think, the early 80s. Raised 2 children in the valley. Had an opportunity to chair the Planning Commission for a while, and I was also on the Planning Board for a while, which was a great foundation to jump into council. And at one point, there was an evacuation of another council person, which led me to run for council. And I was an elected official right from the beginning, which I wanted to be. And I just love Snowmass Village. The recreation part, as Bill said, is all part of one reason why we all come here. But there's the serious part, and that's keeping this town running. Keeping the developers at bay is a challenge, and I'll end right there because I think I might be running out of time. Megan didn't give me the cutthroat yet, but I'll wait for the next question. Thank you for having us.
I'll let you get away with 3 minutes one time. You did it.
Did I?
Thank you, guys. So we'll get going on some questions. First off, we are in Snowmass, so let's discuss the woolly mammoth in the room, which is what happens to the town council seat should Bill Madsen become the mayor. For our viewers, so you know, if Bill is elected mayor and his seat is opened up, the seat would be filled by an appointment of another council member. If Bill loses, he keeps his council seat and remains at the table for the next 2 years. So, Tom, if you are not elected mayor, would you put your name in as an appointment for Bill's seat?
Well, that's a good question, David, and I still will wait to give you a positive answer on that, because I think if the community speaks and they have spoken in regards to the election and who is going to be the next mayor, and I feel I'm going to be a good leader, and I've been a leader, I'm going to wait right now to give you that answer. I'm not going to say I will put myself in for that position yet.
Thank you. So, Bill, if you win, would you support an appointment of Tom to your seat, or would you look at the person who finishes third in the council race, and why or why not?
Well, I think the council race is going to be very interesting. If I do win the seat for mayor, I would most definitely consider Tom. One of the real assets of being on the council for the last 6 years is that we've really developed a team environment. And when I talked to Tom about, initially when he ran for council, I asked him a number of questions specifically about his football career. And the reason being is that my point of view is that we need to build a team environment. Politics in Snowmass Village is not an us and them proposal. It's not partisan politics like we see in the rest of the country. The best way for Snowmass Village to move forward is to have a team environment. And if you look at the votes that came out of this council, there are very few 3-2 votes. Most of the votes are unanimous. So I feel like I was a big part of that, and I think Tom was as well, and it's really about building consensus. We want to make sure we have the best path going forward. And if we have a team with some institutional knowledge, it's much easier to build that consensus to move forward. So I would think Tom would be an asset if he would assume that responsibility. If he wanted to get back on the council as an appointment, I would absolutely put him there.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to our group question list. Gentlemen, based on your experience serving on town council, how would you describe the role of mayor in town decision-making, and why do you feel you're the best fit for the role over your opponent? Bill, we'll start with you on this one, and you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thanks. It's so why would I be the best leader? Well, again, because I can write you a prescription for fun, because I am the doctor of fun. But I think, all seriousness, I mean, again, I think it goes back to building consensus, and I really do like working with people to make sure we're going down the right path. So I think that is really a key component. I also feel that the mayor kind of has to stay in the middle of the stream. The council members, at least from where I sit, it's really about rattling the cage, making sure we're exploring every option. So I believe the mayor's opportunity is to listen to everybody in the room, make sure you're hearing, the extremes of every topic, and trying to come to a consensus within the group to make sure that we're on the right path and we're making the best decisions. I've been involved with the NASTAR program for 30 years, and so in essence, as the director of NASTAR, I have been running a community of about 50,000 people with 100 ski resorts for 30 years. So I've had that role, and I've had to deal with a lot of difficult decisions and manage a lot of people and come to consensus. So I think that I have the skills in order to lead the town going forward.
Thank you. Tom, you're up.
Megan, thank you. Good question. And so why do I feel like I'm in the right position? Well, I've chaired the planning commission before, and I've been a head football coach. I have run my own business, which is I'm just going to say a contracting business, a plumbing and heating business. So I have the feel for the chair position. I also know when to put a sock in it. I've coached football. I've run football teams. I've organized and started the Aspen reorganized the Aspen football program back in '99 and 2000, and gave that position up. And I've also ran the Three Rivers football officials for the last. Well, not I still officiate football, but I was also the coordinator for the whole Western Slope for many years. So I know how to handle people, and I also know when to keep quiet and put a sock in it. And so I do feel that the council we have right now has been, we all agree to disagree at times, and we're all in the right spot, and I just feel my time is due, and I feel I could handle this.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Let's talk about a couple of things that you guys will have to face going forward. Let's talk about what are the top 2 issues you wish to address in the near term as mayor, and why. So the top 2 issues in the near term. Tom, we'll let you start on this go round.
Okay. Number 1 was probably development. Excuse me, let me back up a second. Number 1's probably got to be what we've got going on right now, okay, with COVID, okay? So how we get through this is very essential. I don't think anybody in our lifetime has seen anything like this, and how the town is handling this in regards to emergency services. I think everybody's handling it very well. And number 2 would be the development. How do we stop developers? Well, developers develop. And Snowmass is just at that position right now where people see the opportunity and they're not trying to take advantage of it, but it's a matter of we can't just stay a sleepy village, but we have to stage it to the point where we want to do it in stages. That's what I would like to do, is do it in stages. And can we get so much going on? Housing is a big deal. Transportation is a big deal. Highway 82 is a big deal. There's a lot of big deals going out there. Employee housing. If you build it, they will come. I don't necessarily agree with that. There's a lot of things being built around here, and how much can we handle all at once? I think that's a very vital point.
Bill, what about you? Top two things that you'd like to look at in the near future?
Well, I think the two most pressing topics would be the entryway and employee housing. If there was a third, I'd say connectivity. But the entryway is something that we are in the process of looking at right now. It's a hot topic because it is the entry to town. It's the first impression you get when you roll into Snowmass Village before you get to the town park. Right now at the roundabout, we have a dirt parking lot. We really need to make sure that when people come to Snowmass Village, their first impression is, wow, look at this. Right now on the books, we've got a plan for a kind of a nature walkway that's going to take place along Brush Creek. It'll be very Hallam Lake kind of nature preserve-esque, which I think will be an amazing entry for the town. We'll reorient the Snowmass Rodeo and provide more space for soccer and ballparks down there. Employee housing is always a hot topic with me because I think that's how we really maintain a sustainable community. By having more people here living year-round, patronizing restaurants and the other stores in town is how we really have to have a sustainable community. So if we have more employee housing, we have more people living here, we're really going to be on the right path. I'm really excited about Coffee Place. We're going to have 15 homes coming online just after the first of the year. We just purchased the Carriageway Townhomes, and we're in the process of purchasing the Snowmass Inn. Those three projects alone are a massive undertaking for this town, but vitally important for keeping people in our village.
And I'm sorry, in our format earlier, we should have given you, Bill, a 30-second rebuttal, but Tom, did you have any follow-up to what Bill said? You have 30 seconds.
No, I think Bill and I seem to be on the same page about a lot of things. So, and I, if I missed something, Bill picked it up, and he's right. And when it comes to housing, I think it's not necessarily employee housing for deed restriction is all I want to say. I think it's more rented places for people, for workforces to come up. We need to do something about Highway 82, okay? And let's face it, I think the heart of this community goes to Aspen. The Pickton County Courthouse is in Aspen. There's a lot. You have to go to Aspen every now and then, even though I think we all want to stay here in our little village, in our own little private world. But we do have to go into town sometimes, okay? And when we go to town, I think dealing with Highway 82 is just a nightmare, and especially in the mornings, if you're fortunate enough to be going down Valley and you see that Congo line coming up, you just feel like you made the right move by moving to Snowmass Village when I did.
Thank you.
It's fortuitous that you mentioned development because that's what we're going to talk about. Over the past year especially, you both have reviewed and helped move forward several major development projects, including the Snowmass Center revamp, Mall Transit Center, Snowmass Town Park redesign, and the next phase of Base Village. What have you learned about the community's capacity and the need for development through reviewing these projects and others over your council tenure? And what development do you feel should be prioritized in the years to come when there are so many big deals? Bill, you have 2 minutes to discuss.
Yeah, there has been a lot on our plate in Snowmass Village. There have, and there continues to be. However, the 2018 comprehensive plan, I think we did a really good job of outlining where development is going to take place. So between the mall, the center, and the town park, those are our comprehensive development areas, and that's where we're going to focus on development. There's, in this climate, there's going to be a lot of opportunity that people want to take care of, and they want to build. So what do we do as a town? The best thing that we can do is refer to the code. So if there's a question about development, my first point of reference is the code. Let's look at the code. If they go outside of the code, then what is the community purpose that's going to be handed to us as a village as a result of this development that exceeds height or units? So for me, it's really about doing the right thing for the community. Development is going to happen. Let's make sure that it's done in the right way.
Sure. Thank you. Tom, 2 minutes.
Yes. So, good question. And, you know, I see developers looking at Snowmass Village with just the opportunity in their eyes. And what do developers do? Well, they develop, and a lot of them leave. Well, we live here. So it's very important for me to be part of this council and of the upcoming future councils and possibly the mayor, that we can control this. Can we stop it? I don't think so. There's a term that we used with the comp plan that said just big enough. Well, I don't know what just big enough is, you know, because right now we've got so many things, so many irons in our fire, you know, and then all of a sudden the world gets hit with COVID. And how do we handle COVID? Between Pickens County shutting down the building department for almost 60 days and watching Eagle County and Garfield County and the counties surrounding Pickens County keep working, and I don't know, and you watch Highway 82, and when all of a sudden they want people transportation is a big issue. And as we spoke earlier about the issue of employee housing, do we need $500,000, $800,000 deed restricted houses? I think we need more homes for the workforce to stay here and live here and enjoy this area, as opposed to being on the highway for 2 hours, 1 hour up and 1 hour back. And, you know, if you try to drive through Glenwood Springs at the end of the day, at the end of the night, it's a nightmare. And all those people live points west, either, some of them even go over to Gibson and so on. And anyway, I think that the term just big enough, I'm not so sure this suits our particular area anymore, because control and development is where we are right now. And that means keeping it under control. For instance, Baseville, I don't know, you let me know when I'm going over, please, Megan. I probably am, and I'll wait. But you know, Base Village Phase 3 is our next move, and we need to get that done.
Great. Thank you. Bill, do you want to take 30 seconds?
Well, I think just in regard to just big enough, you know, it's a term that gets kicked around a lot. There's no real dipstick for just big enough, but for me, what just big enough means, if someone's skiing my powder stash, we're too big.
I would agree with that. We talked a little bit, both of you hinted on affordable housing, so we're going to go to there next. Affordable workforce housing continues to be a great need in Snowmass Village, and undoubtedly will be for years to come as we grow. How do you plan, and we've touched on this, but a little bit more time to discuss it, how do you plan to address the needs, and what specific workforce housing types and projects do you feel we should be prioritizing for the village? Tom, it's your turn to go first on this one. So,
Okay, David, thank you. Again, I'll reiterate the point of, you know, when we have, for instance, what we have going on down in Coffee Place, wonderful homes, beautiful spot, perfect spot for development, great. But that's not going to suit the needs for the major workforce. I think what we need, what we have in our development stages right now, for instance, I'd like to see more rental properties for the workforce housing and stuff like that, because I'm not so sure a lot of the workforce can afford a $500,000 deed restricted home. And a lot of people who are in the deed restricted homes are complaining about being in there too long, and when it's time to get out, that they wasted their time. They should have bought Down Valley when prices were reasonable. And said, well, where's Down Valley? Now, for Down Valley, for them, means Basalt or Carbondale the furthest. A lot of people don't want to go as far as Carbondale. They get stuck in that Congo line, as I talked about earlier. So, you know, the workforce housing for me, David, would be more on the line of the rental. I think we need more rental. Bill touched on what the town has just touched base on the rental force, and we plan on doing something with the old Snowmass Inn at that point. And from that point, we have other plans, irons in the fire, that'll happen for the future, hopefully.
Bill?
Well, I mentioned earlier that we have Coffee Place coming, Carriageway, and also the Snowmass Inn. I think those are really going to be important issues. But we recently done a housing master plan, and we've identified 5 sites for future employee housing. I think the number 1 site to develop employee housing is right behind the building here, is what we refer to as the draw site. So the preliminary plan has about 92 units that are just behind Town Hall here.
Tom, go ahead, if you want 30 seconds.
Well, I think Bill's on the right track. We all looked at a lot of the potential sites for stuff, and I think one of the major points is, I think, aging in place. Where are we all going to go? I've lived here now for 40, going on 49 years. Do I want to leave? No, not really. The altitude doesn't bother me yet, but I think aging in place is going to be an issue coming up soon. A lot of us old locals are still here, and where are we going to go to give more room for the people coming in, so they could have, those families have moved on. Now there's single parent, I'm going to call them single parents, husband and wives in houses that were suited for once children and everything else.
Real quick follow-up question.
One moment. Mea culpa. This is what I get when we're trying to manage time. I looked down and saw 30 seconds. You actually have 90 seconds left, Bill. I cut you off early, thinking you were on the rebut. Sorry about that. If you would like to address that.
You want me to continue on employee housing?
Yes, that'd be good. And the quick follow-up, and you both kind of touched on it, so maybe if you wanted to keep going for another minute and a half or so, Bill, but also, is there a number in mind that you think we need? Is it how many number of rentals, how many number beyond coffee place with the housing? So please go ahead.
The stated council goal is to develop 200 units. Once coffee place is done, we're going to be at 185. So how do we diversify that count, and how do we get that mix that's right? So we have, low-cost housing, rentals, and for sale units. I think it's really important that we don't go totally rental, because we really want to have people develop, invest in the town and have some equity built into their homes. So I think it's really important for people to own a chunk of Snowmass Village. It gives them some ownership, really makes them connected and committed to the community. So I think that having that mix between rental and ownership is really important.
And Tom, do you have a number when you talk about rentals? Have you thought about?
No, I don't. But I think, and I kind of agree with Bill. We're kind of running out of places too where we could put people, and having the draw behind City Hall is a great spot for numerous things. It could be 20 deed restricted units, just like Mountain View. It could be a mix. If we look at the program for rentals on the employee housing list, there's people waiting 3 to 5 years to get their name. They're 75. They move from 120, and then they call, and they will find out they're number 50. And that takes years to get to the point of moving up in the list. So that gives me an answer that looks like we need more rentals. We need more people here. And how do we get more people here? Meaning more, not necessarily tourists. I mean, we need more local people here. And that's through the rental program. Because I'm not so sure a lot of our local people can afford a deed-restricted $500,000 home.
I'm not sure I could. Moving on, something that we have touched on earlier, but it's difficult to ignore COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, the COVID-19 crisis has greatly impacted and continues to impact the Snowmass Village community. What role do you feel the town needs to play to continue to support locals through the uncertain months ahead, and what should that look like, especially with the winter coming? Bill, you have 2 minutes.
Well, the town has done a great job in supporting locals. We've committed $200,000 to Picken County's fund, which has gone directly to those people in need. So I think that Snowmass has been very responsive. Alyssa Shenk, who's running for council, who I fully support, has been a tireless volunteer handing out food during our food drives. So I think that Snowmass is doing a really good job, and that we need to continue to work with Picken County and hopefully the state. We're certainly not going to get direction from the federal level, at least not until after November 2nd. So if we can work with the state and work with counties to make sure that we have a consistent message going on, That's going to be the most important thing so that we can support our community and that our messaging is clear about wearing face masks, social distancing, making sure that we're keeping our parties smaller, just the basic COVID-19 5 commitments. If we can manage COVID through basic social distancing and wearing masks, we're going to be a lot better off.
Great. Thank you. Tom?
So I agree with Bill, and COVID's a different animal right now. I mean, between a lot of our second homeowners who are now full-time homeowners decided wherever they lived, whether it be wherever, south, east, west, they decided to move here full-time. Our schools all of a sudden have an abundance of people that are populated with. Our markets, our food markets are very busy now. And I think these people, once they decided that it's no longer the second home, it's a full-time home. Their original home might be their second home. So again, this COVID is going to be around for a while. It's not going to disappear. I think it's changed everybody's lifestyle, and we need to adapt to it. And I think we've done an excellent job by doing that, by contributing to the school system, by contributing to the county, and moving on. And everybody's now kind of getting used to it. Everybody, at one point, masks were something different. Now everybody's getting used to wearing the mask and keeping their distance. I'm not quite sure which direction it's going to go in, whether or not there's going to be some type of inoculation for some people where we get to that point where it's going to disappear. I don't think it'll ever disappear. This is a different animal. This is a very serious animal, and we all have to live with it, whether it's the ski company, or it's us as town council, as leaders, have to lead in that direction, and we have to show the community that we are responsible enough to carry them through this.
Right. Bill, did you want 30 seconds?
I don't think so. I mean, I think people are really tired of COVID, and really we need to keep it as positive as possible. And, we want to make sure people have a place to get outdoors and have fun in a socially responsible way. You can do that in Snowmass Village.
Great. We are about to wrap up our session, so we'd like to end by giving each candidate, just as we start with 2-minute openers, we're going to end with 2-minute closing statements. Tom, we'll start with you since we went first with Bill at the beginning of the forum.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for hosting us. And this is difficult times for the whole world, not just and especially for our community. Our quiet little town up here, has changed with the influx of out-of-towners who were second homeowners. And we're dealing with that, and I think we're dealing with that very well. We have a lot of development that we're in the books ready to start before COVID even started. So we as a council are dealing with that as well. And I just think right now that we are very fortunate to live where we live, and we have to protect ourselves though. And I'm very pleased to live here and be part of this community, and I will continue to do anything I can to help this community, whether or not I am part of the board, of the council, or whatever board I happen to be, whichever way the election goes.
Thank you. Bill, 2 minutes?
Thanks. It's, people often ask me, like, why did you move to Snowmass Village? What really makes it for you? And my general response is, it reminds me a lot of Aspen when I was a kid. The town is smaller. That's what really is important. And even as I sit here, I mean, Megan, you tutored my son for SATs. David works for a paper that my father was a part owner in and also a columnist. I mean, those are the things that really resonate with me. When I go to the post office and I know people, or people walking down the street and they say, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" I mean, that's what's important to me. It's that community involvement. I think in Snowmass, it's really important to have stimulation, not only athletically, but artistically and intellectually. I think the Anderson Ranch does a great job offering artistic events and having that stimulation. Our SOB, the Snowmass Arts Advisory Board, does a great job of bringing artistic elements into the community, art in unexpected places. And I think we also need to develop our Ice Age Discovery Center, because that's where I believe we really need to stimulate people intellectually, discover more about climate change. We have the most impressive high altitude ice age discovery in the world right up here in the Ziegler Pond. I very much would like to see that dig reopened. I want to see Snowmass Water and Sand expand the water source there so we become a more resilient community with a greater water source, which is going to be imperative moving forward, because I think climate change is ultimately going to define our generation.
Thank you,
both.
gentlemen. Thank you to both our mayoral candidates, Bill Madsen and Tom Goode, for appearing tonight. We would like to also thank John Masters and the crew at GrassRoots TV for airing and recording of this event. And we'd also like to thank Travis Elliott and the town of Snowmass Village for letting us use the chambers. This forum has been recorded and can be found on the websites and the Facebook pages for the Aspen Times and Snowmass Sun and for the Daily News, as well as for the GrassRoots TV and the GrassRoots YouTube channel and grassrootstv.org. A reminder that you can go to pitkinvotes.com for more information and registering to vote for the November 3rd general election. Please stay tuned. In a little bit, we will have the candidates for the Snowmass Town Council coming up at 6 p.m. Until then, I'm David Krause, editor of the Aspen Times and the Snowmass Sun, and for Megan Tackett with the Aspen Daily News and the crew of GrassRoots TV, we thank you for joining us, and please remember to get out and vote. Good evening and welcome everyone to the second part of the Snowmass Village Squirm Night, a 2020 election event brought to you by GrassRoots TV, the Aspen Daily News, the Aspen Times, and Snowmass Sun. I'm David Krause, editor of the Aspen Times and Snowmass Sun, here alongside Megan Tackett, the editor of the Aspen Daily News.
Tonight, we are talking with the candidates of the Town of Snowmass Village Town Council. There are 5 candidates vying for 2 open seats. Those candidates are incumbent Alyssa Shenk, joining us virtually from Moab. Thanks for being here. And in the chambers, we have candidates Matthew Owens, Warr, Tom Fridstein, and Jeff Kremer. Just a few notes before we get started tonight. We are inside the Snowmass Town Council chambers and have confirmed our plan with the Picken County officials. We have no audience and fewer than 10 people, and we are socially distanced.
As for voting, if you are a registered Picken County voter, you should have already received your ballot in the mail. They can be returned to drop boxes outside the Snowmass Village Town Hall, the county's administration building in Aspen on Main Street, and the Basalt Town Hall now through 7 p.m. on Election Day. On-site early voting started Monday at the Aspen Jewish Community Center on Main Street in Aspen, and election night is November 3rd. For more information on locations or to register to vote, go to pitkinvotes.com. And finally, for Snowmass voters, we also have 2 issues to decide. Ballot issue 2A, which is asking for an extension of the property tax to fund the Aspen School District, as well as ballot issue 4A, which is a $21 million bond ask from the school district.
With 5 candidates and a number of topics to discuss in the next hour, our format for this forum will be each candidate gets up to 2 minutes to respond. I'm going to hold you to 2 minutes to respond. We'll go in an order that was predetermined earlier today by drawing names out of a hat. But first, we want to do a quick series of yes or no questions. Teacher style, all I need is a hand up if you say, yes, I agree with this statement. If it's no, then just stay exactly where you are. First up, do you agree with the mandate to extend mask ordinance through the ski season? Do we need a roundabout at Owl Creek and Brush Creek roads? Yes or no? Okay.
Depends on if they build the property there.
We have 2 wiggle hands.
I'll take that. Is Snowmass starting to lose its small town charm and beginning to mirror like Vail and Winter Park with the Base Village construction projects? Okay. Should the Snowmass Town Center move forward as is? Okay. Here's a good one. If Madsen's seat is open, should it automatically go to the person who finishes 3rd in this race? Would you support using town money to fix the Skittles operation?
Hell yeah.
And then finally, would you support an increase in town money for public art?
Public art?
Thank you, candidates, for indulging us in that exercise. We'd like to next go to our 2-minute opening statements from each candidate. Let us know a bit about your background and why you're the best fit for the seat. To go by the hat drawing, we'll start with Jeff, then Gray, followed by Matthew, Alyssa, and Tom.
You ready?
I am ready.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jeff Kremer. I'm a candidate for the Snowmass Village Town Council. I'm a 29-year resident of Snowmass Village, 35 years in the Upper Valley. My wife and I have raised 2 children here, now young adults who have basically launched successfully, I'm happy to say. I spent 40 years in behavioral health. I am now retired, although I find a tough time applying that term to my life. But I am retired. Behavioral health is essentially mental health services and chemical dependency services, for those of you that may not know what that is. Recently, I invested 4 years in the parks, open space, trails, and recreation process in this town. I spent 1.5 years on the steering committee, and then I was the first chair of the poster board, which I held for a position I held for roughly 2.5 years, stepping down in November of 2019. You know, there are several values that I subscribe to that I'd like you to be aware of as voters and give you some insight into how I think. As a council person, I want to stress quality of life and enhancing the quality of life for those that live here in Snowmass Village. I want to elevate the notion of community character and what it means to be guided by such a notion. I want to protect and preserve our special environment and what it constitutes, what I see as constituting the spirit of place that is Snowmass Village. I want to enhance recreational opportunities and promote those activities and events that connect us to one another. I think recreation and our environment is something that we all share. There's many things that divide us, but in this town, we share those opinions about our environment and activity outside in the environment. I want to support the continued creation of workforce housing, both deed-restricted and rental. The folks that live in this housing are our human infrastructure. They make this town go. It also provides financial diversity in our village and creates some balance, and I think those things are very important. I want to be cognizant of the struggles of our small businesses with COVID-19 and support them in ways that we can. As the largest of our development projects have been approved, essentially, I think we need to be very concerned about the pace of growth in this village, especially avoiding major construction projects coming online simultaneously. Most of these projects have been given 5 years vesting. I think we need to do some staging or be conscious of doing some staging in construction to prevent our small town from simply being overwhelmed by construction. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
All right, first off, thanks guys for hosting this event. I'm really excited to be here tonight. This is my first debate ever, so I'm sure it'll be an interesting one. I'm Warr, I'm 40 years old, and I'm originally from Columbia, South Carolina, where I grew up lower middle class. As a child, we could never afford a ski vacation, and to be quite honest, I still can't afford a ski vacation. That said, after graduating from the University of South Carolina with a BA in Business Administration and a minor in Hotel Restaurant Tourism, I moved out west as fast as I could. Landed in Park City, Utah, where I got a job waiting tables, got a job at a local ski shop, eventually got into the ski school, where I became the children's ski school manager. From there, I taught at Snowbird, Perisher in Australia, Beaver Creek. Along the way, I worked for the South Carolina Emergency Management as a hazard planner for 3 years, and later for FEMA for 9 years, where I traveled across America helping people directly affected after a disaster. Eventually, my family and I found my way to the greatest place on earth. I think we all know what that is, Snowmass Village. So why did I decide to run for town council? Decided to run for town council because I feel that there are a lot of projects that I would like to see completed. I feel that the completion of these projects are required for Snowmass to remain relevant in the industry, both in the summer and in the winter. And I feel it should be done with authenticity, sustainability, and above all, community feedback. Also, I believe there should be diversity on the town council. As an active participant in the Snowmass workforce, I feel I have more of a finger on the pulse. I'm currently the Ski School Adult Alpine Program Coordinator in the winter, and I work for Snowmass Summer Camp and guest services for the town of Snowmass in the summertime. For those of you that own businesses in the mall in the village, I'm the guy that was walking around passing out the weekly flyers on Friday, so you might recognize me. I feel for us to continue having an amazing workforce and for us to continue to build our wonderful community, we must provide affordable housing. Last I checked, there are at least 130 employees on the rental wait list. This needs to be thoughtful planning, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Lastly, Snowmass is a unique mountain town that draws people from all over the world to the great outdoors. We should remain environmentally prudent and with all decisions to keep this place one of a kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew.
Thank you. Thank you for setting up this great opportunity. I'm excited to be here tonight. My name is Matthew Owens, and I've been living in Snowmass Village full-time for over 16 years. In that time, I've gone from working as the purchasing manager for the Snowmass Club to the housing operations manager for Aspen Skiing Company to starting my own business here as well. In addition, I have forged many deep friendships, found my wife, and I've been blessed with a beautiful baby girl. I am running for town council because I love Snowmass Village. I have stake in the game, and I believe my skill set and experience can help move Snowmass forward. My campaign is focused around three main issues: housing, health and safety, and local businesses. Snowmass Village has long struggled with issues around housing. Working in housing for over 15 years has provided me a broad depth of knowledge to understand and be able to effectively approach the unique housing challenges we face. As Snowmass Village continues to grow and evolve, resolving this issue once and for all will only become more important. I'm committed to finding solutions that will work. Health and safety is always of the utmost importance for any successful community. However, in recent months with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have been challenged unlike any other time. I have spoken with many residents and business owners that are worried about their health and safety and how that has been treated. Having my own family to be concerned about, I understand their concerns. I'll be sure to research and examine all the data, options, and collect residential input before supporting any mandates that affect health and safety of Snowmass residents. Local businesses face many challenges in this village, from seasonal business to high rents. COVID has added a whole new layer of challenges. I've sadly already had to watch friends lose jobs, relocate, and some have lost their businesses altogether. I believe that we can all work together in a way that will allow our businesses to thrive while still protecting our most vulnerable residents. I look forward to exploring these topics and others from the community this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the Aspen Times, Aspen Daily News, and GrassRoots TV, and for accommodating me while I am out of town for this debate. I've lived in the Roaring Fork Valley for 16 years. 13 of those have been in Snowmass Village. Well, my husband and I, Ben, moved here. We did not have any kids yet. Both of our kids, Sophie and Eli, were born here. And I'm also proud to say that my parents are also residents of Snowmass Village, Joyce and Chuck Shenk. I currently serve as the Development and Events Coordinator or Director for Pathfinders. I have a legal background. I went to law school at Ohio State, specializing in mediation, and I participate in a lot of volunteer opportunities in our community, especially at the school where I'm head of the parent council at the middle school. I am extremely proud to be a part of the current Snowmass Village Town Council. We have gotten a lot done in my 6 years since I've been on council, and there's a lot of big projects to come. And in order to see those to fruition, we need experience. We need people that have the knowledge to see these projects through. I feel very lucky to be part of a town that takes what we do so seriously. We run very precisely and carefully, and our fiscal responsibility to the community illustrates a lot. We have a wonderful staff, and we appreciate them all very much for all the different facets of the community that they represent. I think if Snowmass Village can keep ticking the way that it's been ticking, who can argue that it's not even doing well during a pandemic, because it is. For me, my life is intrinsically tied to Snowmass Village. Our kids are in school here. My husband is a lawyer here. I volunteer at the school and in the community. I've been actively volunteering at the food bank since it started in April. I see the needs, what the needs are in the community. I have friends struggling with childcare, loss of employment, housing. I see what those issues are, and I'm proud of what I've done to represent all the different facets of the community, whether they're visitors, workers, part-time residents. And I just need more time to see some of these things to completion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. I'm glad that you're able to join us, and I'm glad that the volume and the audio is working from there. So, great.
Okay, good.
Tom, finish out this round for us, please.
Sure. Hi, I am Tom Fridstein, and I am running for town council because I care deeply about the future of our village, and I believe my experience and expertise can contribute to its continuing success. Snowmass Village, as we all know, is a unique and special place and needs knowledgeable leadership for it to prosper while still maintaining the natural character that attracts us to live, work, and play here. I am an architect with 45 years' experience, and I also have an MBA. This gives me a deep understanding of the proposals for building projects that come before Town Council. I will always strive in reviewing these projects to get the best results for the village. As chairman of the Planning Commission, I have gained great insight into many of the issues facing our village. I learned the importance of listening to all aspects of an issue and finding the solution that, again, is best for our community. On Town Council, I will work to find that necessary balance between physical improvements and maintaining the natural and genuine character of the village. As a member and past president of the Snowmass Rotary Club, I've engaged in the community service that is the hallmark of Rotary. My experience at Snowmass goes back 52 years, when I skied here on a high school ski trip in the opening year. Since then, my parents moved here in the 1980s, and I have visited Snowmass every year since 1970 until my wife and I moved here full time. I have witnessed our transformation from a fledgling ski resort into a vibrant village. I hope to contribute my expertise and energy to keep our beautiful village successful and thriving. I know that the best results on Town Council will arise from careful listening, being thoughtful, and finding the best solutions for Snowmass Village. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We are going to move on to our next round of questions. This will be, if you could, 2-minute responses. We will give you a heads up when we're getting to do about 10 seconds, just so we can keep moving along. Our first topic we want to go through, and a few of you touched on it, is development. Town Council is reviewing, will soon be reviewing, or already has reviewed and approved several major development projects in Snowmass, including the revamp of the Snowmass Center and the final phases of Base Village. The questions for you are, what do you feel is the most important for the council to consider when reviewing development projects? And how do you feel you're best added to the council review process if elected? So the order for this, we'll start with Gray, Matt, Alyssa, Tom, and then Jeff. So Gray, 2 minutes, please, to discuss development.
Thank you, Dave. As far as development goes, I see a real need to keep Snowmass relevant. The ski industry is the hugest part. I personally came here because it's the greatest place on earth, and the skiing is absolutely spectacular. Everything else, though, I feel really needs a facelift. Most of it was built in the 60s and the 70s. And a lot of my clients, when I used to teach, we would come down, and after having just an epic day on the mountain, and, the mall is old. I'm really excited about Base Village. I'm really excited about the town center getting redone. I think it should happen. I think, it's good for the economy to have something new. It's good for the retail industry to have people that want to go there. It's good for the restaurant industry to have a building that's inviting. Working on the hill 5 days a week, I am surrounded by employees, by lifties, by clients, by guests, and I feel that we should move forward. There's some people that think that, it should stay the way it is. It should never change. And I feel that it should change. I feel that we should stay relevant. I feel that we should have a beautiful mountain town, but still maintain the integrity of the town, still have the small town feel and community, But, you know, we should also move forward and we should look to the future.
Thank you.
Did I cover
Matt?
everything? I don't know.
12 seconds to spare. I've moved on to a timer. There is a buzzer now.
Okay, thanks.
Matthew?
Well, I tend to agree with a lot of what you said. I personally voted for Base Village. I like that it's finally getting finished. It's been a long time. In hindsight's 2020, but I think that the delays were a bit frustrating. Finally, it's there. I like the idea of the new town center. I don't think it's too big. I think it's just the right size, and I think it's somewhat dysfunctional up there. So I think that that's something that, as far as development goes, I think I'm all for it. My issue with any development going forward, for me personally, and I think that it affects the town the most, is that we've built these large facilities and new businesses are popping up, and we have not built a significant amount of housing. And that's kind of my whole platform, really. I think that for every development that we continue to move towards, I think that a substantial amount of housing needs to come with that. I think that it's well known that we've been behind on building housing. I think that we need a lot more rentals in the village, and I'm pleased with the Rodeo Place, and I'm pleased with Coffee Place and Sinclair Meadows and everything that's gone up since I've been here in the last 16 years. But what I don't see is a whole lot more Mountain View 2s going up, and I think that's really kind of what we need. We need to support our workforce more, and when you build these large base villages and town centers and you don't attach housing to it, well, then we're outsourcing from down valley and we're struggling to find housing. And to my knowledge, if you were to just move into Snowmass Village tomorrow from some other town, good luck finding housing, unless you're working for Skico and you're jumping in down at the Commons or somewhere else, because I'm pretty sure there's a pretty long wait list at town of Snowmass Village housing. I would like there to be some opportunity for some movement there, but I think any future developments going forward need to have housing attached to it, bottom line.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Thank you. So development undeniably continues to be at the forefront of our community, both in terms of private development and commercial development. And I think we need to be hyper aware about how much we're putting on the community at a time. I think the most important thing that we need to consider is the comprehensive plan. We spent a lot of time with that comprehensive plan. I have never been a part of a process like that, and it was so interesting, fascinating, all the different people in the community, the different stakeholders coming together to create a plan of our aspirations, what we want our village to be now and as it continues to grow. And I think that the 7 guiding principles that we set in that comp plan, whether it be stewardship, vibrancy, connectivity, inclusiveness, all of those, they're all the important things that we need to look at when we're looking at any PUD application or any type of development, whether it be private development as well. If we are diligent in our application of these principles to these projects, then I think we will be where we need to be and we will achieve the right balance. I think that enthusiasm for development or employee housing or any of these things is great, because we all need to be champions and be excited. But I will say that the most important thing I can bring to the table is knowledge. After 6 years and various PUD applications and all other facets of the town, I can say I fully have a handle on how you evaluate these things and the important things to consider and what you need to know before moving forward on any project. So that's what I can bring to the table.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, well, I alluded on my opening comments some of my attitudes about development, and I totally understand it. I have spent 45 years working with some of the biggest developers in the world on some very important projects and even small projects. I understand both the development criteria and the architectural aspects, and I can be a very good reviewer of these projects. And my goal is always to make sure that we're getting the best benefit for the community from the development. Balance is what's important. Yes, we have to continue to improve our physical environment, but there's very little land left in our town, almost none. So it has to be done very smart, it has to be done very considerately, and it's up to the Planning Commission, Town Council to push these developers to do absolutely the right thing and to not do too much. We need to keep that in balance. Alyssa referred to the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission prepared the comprehensive plan. Town Council reviewed it and approved it. And I was one of the principal authors as we spent almost a year and a half putting that together. And again, it's all about the balance. It's about just big enough. And so what I think I bring is I understand all aspects of development and construction and architecture and design. And I will push to get what's right for our community and in the proper balance of growth, but maintaining this beautiful, natural character, which is what makes us who we are. Thank you.
Jeff, we're back to you, Jeff. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I'm still here. You know, I take this whole issue of development actually back to 2005, because I think that's where the tone was set. And what happened in 2005 was there was a referendum on Base Village. And basically, that's where the discussion about what's big enough was done. Mm-hmm. And the outcome of that referendum was essentially to proceed with what we have and build I would call a large base village. And, you know, I'm okay with that because the citizens of this town decided that. And so I put a lot of credence in that. Would I have preferred a smaller development? Yes. Did we need to do development at that time? Of course we did. This place was tired. This place was behind. And we needed to do something. But to me, that set the tone for future development, and especially the magnitude of development that has come since. You know, the recent amendment, the PUD amendment for East-West, buildings 10A, 10B, 11, 12, and 13B, that's going to be 393,000 square feet. That's a lot. But I also want to say, when they came to get the original approval for that development in 2015, I was supportive of that, and in fact wrote a letter to the Sun supporting it. So I was never fully against that by any stretch of the imagination. I fully accept that it's being built now. I am more concerned about the impacts of construction that I talked about earlier. And we need to manage that in staged, or however you want to put it, in phased manner. I think that's very important. What Tom said earlier is really true. 94% of the private lots in our town are built out. There isn't any place to do any big construction projects anymore after we get done with the center. The center is going to be 40% larger than the current one. And then there will be a variety of private homes built as well. Okay, I know I have to stop. So I can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I get to be bad cop with the time. That's my job. Next, as has already been mentioned tonight, we are going to move on to affordable workforce housing. It continues to be a great need in Snowmass Village and undoubtedly will be for years to come. How do you plan to address this need, and what specific workforce housing types or projects do you feel should be prioritized? And Matt, fortuitously, we're starting with you.
Okay. Well, lucky me. As far as housing goes, like we've been talking about, there's not much space left. I think we've built everything that we want to build. We want the center, we got the base village, we've got all these things in place, but we don't have housing. So I think that anything further, it's going to have to be considered. I think that all those spots should be considered for housing. I personally, I think one of the first meetings I had here, they had mentioned that they had identified that 400 units was like the magical number that was scaled back to 200. I'm kind of wondering where the 400 went, because I feel like working in housing for the last 16 years right here in Snowmass Village that we could definitely use it. There's a huge wait list. It's very long. It's about, I think, at least 3 years to get in if you're just coming in from out of town. But each site needs to be evaluated for housing. I think the center is a great spot, but I'm really satisfied with anything as long as it's the right type. I think that $500,000 homes at Coffee Place might be a bit of a stretch for the average worker in Snowmass Village or the average family. Although I think they're very nice, and I think they're great for, you know, the 15 or so families that are going to end up down there. And I'm going to try to get one myself if I can make it work. But at the end of the day, I look back and I say, well, how does somebody like me move here and thrive? And without housing, without that key component, you're really not going to get that as much. You're going to get people that come here for a few years, they work, they leave, because you've got a number of quagmires already here in Snowmass Village. You've got cost of living, you've got housing, you've got jobs, careers. It's a tough place to make it work. Adding significant, affordable, reasonable-sized housing, and I'm not talking about, you know, little boxes that are 290 square feet. I'm talking about 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-bedroom apartments that are good for anybody from a single to a small family. Thank you.
Alyssa, your turn. Oh,
Alyssa, we need you.
sound.
Are you on mute?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Housing has been and always will be a challenge in our village. And as it's been alluded to tonight, there are very few places left, and we are having to get creative. Or as Betsy Kramer, housing director, Beth says, we got to tuck it in. So that is really what it's going to be about. It's also going to be about maximizing our funds to meet the needs of the community. I sat through an overview. We've had a few overviews so far of the master housing plan, which we're working on revising. And this last time they put some numbers to some of these projects, and it was eye-opening. It makes you realize that we're really gonna have to go with the projects where we can get maybe the best units or those that are tucked away more, the most feasible for the community. Since I've been on council, we have acquired Carriageway, which is, you know where it is, the green ghettos it used to be called, but it's called Carriageway. Hopefully soon to be the Snowmass Inn, and Coffee Place, which is in the process of being built. Sorry, just got a little windy. And the COP plan allows for 200 more additional units. And as Matt was just saying, like, it's really hard to know right now. You know, if you ask me now, I'd probably say we need a lot more rental units when you think about the number of workers who are having to commute every day. But really, it's going to be about carefully evaluating the community of Snowmass and those who want to be in this community and what kind of housing is going to best meet their needs. We do have an extensive wait list. And I would say right now, the biggest thing that we're also looking at is senior housing. And with all of these projects, whether it be senior housing or rentals or deed restricted, is that partnership is going to be key. Whether it's the school district, the hospital, we really need to look at partners in order to get some of these projects to fruition.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
No,
Oh,
it's
I'm
to me, I
sorry.
believe. All right.
This is gonna mess with me, I can tell.
Yeah, gets a little confusing. I think a lot's been said. I mean, there is understandably a great need for employee housing, but there's no land. Town Council this past year commissioned a study that found locations for about 260 units. But the estimated cost is $220 million. And we don't have that kind of money. I mean, that's about $800,000 average per unit. So it's a very difficult question because one of the reasons it's so expensive is because the sites are all very difficult to build on. They're not just simple, easy sites. We've put into the comprehensive plan, and it hasn't been acted on, but a recommendation that the town needs to hire a consultant to do a comprehensive study of what we can build, what is the need. There's always going to be need. There's always going to be, we can never build enough. So what is the long-term plan? Also, I think if we're building housing, we have to recognize childcare for our employees. And I really think the town should consider it a public responsibility of the town to support childcare in this town. And it may become national law in a couple years or something. But right now, I think the town needs to help support that. So employees don't have to drive down Valley to drop off their kid, come back and work, and then go back and pick them up again. That puts 4 trips on Route 82. So it's a comprehensive issue that needs to be studied. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now, Jeff.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's been alluded to, the town has identified 4 sites where potential workforce employee housing could be built. I think some of them are rather intriguing. I find the draw rather intriguing in the sense of its proximity to the center and to transportation. I know they've also talked about the maintenance facility, and I think that would be a dandy spot to build employee housing. Now, as far as what type, I tend to agree with the gentleman over here that, say, $500,000 homes are probably not the way to go. It would be nice, but it's not very efficient. It's also very expensive and hard for people to get into and afford. So I would be more in the thinking of something like townhomes and apartments as to what could best fulfill our needs, given our constraints. And Tom Fridstein's right, this is extremely expensive. They did projections for these sites the other day, and it was printed in the paper, and it's very expensive. There's no doubt about it. To me, it's also very expensive not to do it. And so I want to see us move forward on employee housing along the lines that I've talked about. And part of it is just to preserve, as I said in my opening statement, the type of community that we have. I have nothing against wealth. Let me say that straight out. But I don't want to see Snowmass Village just become an enclave of the wealthy. I want us to have a diverse community. I want us to have a community that's balanced among people that live here. We all have something to offer this community. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. So, yes, housing is ridiculous here. That said, there were actually, I really enjoyed Betsy's presentation, the master housing plan. There's actually 5 housing areas. There's the town hall draw site, which I feel is the most important. Like Matt said, that would be the spot for the future Mountain View. That's going to be 90 units, 1, 2, 3 bedroom units. You've also got the infill site, which is near the Public Works. That's only 12 condo style homes. Carriage Way is going to be 39 units, which is a gain of only 27. That's only 1 and 2 bedroom uses. Daly Lane, that's Snowmass Inn. So currently, that is the Snowmass Inn. That's 39 units. That's hotel style, that's like 2 queen beds. That's rental property. And who's going to move in there? 20-year-olds that don't mind living with their buddy, microwaving food? So in the future, they're looking at tearing that down and making it into something amazing. 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. It's going to be a total of 72 units. Carriage Way, the upper lot, I think that is fantastic, and I would like to see all of that parking be underground instead of having that above ground, shoveling the snow off. You can make that a park or some sort of open space. As far as what's currently going on, Coffee Place, those units are, single family units. There's a couple of duplexes there. They're $500,000 to about $880,000. So, when we're looking at taking care of our community, that's taking care of a very upper part of our community and not necessarily, us or me or, I don't know. Behind the center, that's 10 condos that are for deed restricted, 64 residential units. So that's 64 that are not us. So I feel like it's a big issue. Thanks.
Great. We are going to get to the last of the group questions and as we're moving along. One thing we'd like to give everybody an opportunity to talk about is what they want to do in in the future on their term. So our next round of question is, what are the top 2 issues you would like to address in the near term as a counselor and why. The top 2 issues you'd like to address. Alyssa, you get to go first from Moab.
I like that, from Moab. It's like you're beaming me in. Thank you, David. So the top issues. I mean, clearly, the housing master plan is something that's on everyone's mind. You've heard it a million times tonight, and I think pushing this forward and really getting a better handle on what we need for the community, what we can afford. That's definitely going to be a top priority on everyone's mind. I would also say finishing up some of these projects that we're working on. I mean, Base Village right now is in a good place. We will see some stuff from them later on, but the town park master plan is really a top priority. It has been talked about for years and years. It's sort of always taken the back burner to other projects, but the town park master plan is more than just a park. It's the entrance to our community. It's a premier recreation site.
Yep.
One of the things that makes Snowmass Snowmass. It's
Alyssa,
Are you losing me?
A little bit. Go ahead again. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if you heard what I just said, but I'll repeat it. The town park master plan is not only the entrance to our community, but it is also premier recreation site, and it's the home of the rodeo, which makes Snowmass Snowmass. And a lot of people wouldn't want to see it go, and including myself. So I think housing, that means updating the regulations, looking at senior housing, looking at ways we can partner with other members in the community. I mean, a lot of these things, childcare, housing, they're great things for us to take on, but it's not a singular town issue. We can be working with Picken County, Aspen, Basalt, to sort of collectively come up with the best way to handle the housing issue, in addition to what we're doing, for ourselves in the town. So that, and the town park master plan, which also in a way includes the connectivity plan, which Bill Madsen and I, pushed hard for, and it never fully got adopted. And I know that he'll still be on council regardless if he wins the mayor seat, but regardless, we really want to be able to push that forward. Thank you so much.
Tom?
Okay, well, I think dealing with COVID is an existential issue for us. And nobody quite knows what to do because we've never done this before. So there's going to be continuing challenges which are essential to the survivability of our businesses. We may not have employees to house unless we do this right. And so I think we just got to be really smart and figure out as we go. We need really knowledgeable and wise, thoughtful people in town council to figure this out, because we're all across the country figuring it out. And then for my second, there's so many, but I think I would put at the top probably a comprehensive housing strategy. Everything's been a knee-jerk reaction as long as I've been around. When we're doing the comprehensive plan, there was a figure came from some tabulation based on square footage is that we need 365 more units of housing. Instead of doing a study, town council just says, well, let's just build 200. And now they've done a study and it's extraordinarily expensive. I think we need to just step back for a second before we spend $220 million, which we don't have, and just figure out what's the strategy, put the strategy in place, and then go about solving our employee housing issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yes. Well, if you remember my opening, I'm going to say I have a bias around the town park issue and the recreational amenities for our town. What Alyssa said about the town park being on the back burner is true, because that issue did not gain any traction with this council until fairly recently. And it's going to be something that's going to benefit everybody that lives here, everybody that visits here. And again, some of what that may consist of is development of the wetlands, having a wetland sanctuary perhaps, There's a pond back there that can be used for recreational purposes. Maybe we're even gonna have a beach there. Those things are possible. You know, paddle boarding, those kinds of things. The entrance is something that should have been addressed, in my opinion, many years ago. And it's been on the town agenda, at least the radar, for 20 years, if not 30. We have a dirt parking lot. That's not acceptable. I have a friend that always tells me you only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. And we need to do something about that. Now, part of that involves dealing with the rodeo. And I'm a rodeo fan. It's part of our heritage. It's something we have that Aspen does not have. And yet, it can be more efficiently designed and more efficiently used. And that's part of the, the overall plan with the town park redesign. We're gonna have more playing fields for our kids there. We might have a skills bicycle park. There's so many things that can benefit our community that we can do down there. So yes, I'm a strong proponent of town park, of continuing to develop trails as we can, and developing recreational amenities, because that's what Snowmass Village is all about. Is my time up?
5 seconds to spare. I'm proud.
Well, the second thing, I agree with Tom. COVID is something we need to negotiate, except I am optimistic that we are going to be able to tackle that through our science and our medicine.
Thank you. Gray?
All right, thank you. Yes, there are two issues that I want to talk about. COVID, I feel, is the most pressing issue. I totally agree with Tom. And Tom, if this doesn't work out, you definitely got a voice for radio. It's an incredible voice. I think that the town of Snowmass should do everything in its power to keep us safe and to prevent another shutdown. The town is fiscally run. They run very conservatively, and if we did have a shutdown, I believe the estimate is that we can make it at 10 months before we go bankrupt, which is incredible, because if you ever do any financial planning, 6 months is what they shoot for. So well done on the town. We need to abide by public safety recommendations, listen to our emergency managers, make sure that we can keep this place open, make sure that we can keep everyone employed, make sure everyone can bring home a paycheck, feed their families. The second issue I'd like to talk about is taking care of the community as a whole. And by that, I mean we need to take care of housing. Housing is a huge need. All of my friends, 90% of them live in a rental here in Snowmass. The other live in deed restricted. And there are so many. There's a last estimate, it's like 130 people on the waiting list for housing, rental units. Rental, it's just rental. That's not even to purchase. I also agree with Tom on daycare. Being a new dad, I have a 6-month-old. Matt also has how old?
15 months.
15 months. I mean, so this is a community, and we're trying to make it a bigger community, and we're trying to get family involved. And if there's not housing, I mean, how do you grow a family? And the last thing is revitalization. We need to revitalize this town. It needs a facelift. Let's stay relevant. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Matt gets to finish.
I get a chance, all right.
Top two things, Matt.
A lot of really good, lot of good comments made. I agree with a lot of what all of you have said. But it makes me think that the fact that we don't have any land left to build on and we have such a dire situation when it comes to housing is a major issue. I think that personally is I hate to say it, I think that's kind of a failure of planning for the last 16 years that I've been here. I think that it needs to be priority number one. So number one, Snowmass will not be Snowmass if we do not have people here to run it. That's going to require housing. That's also going to require supporting our workforce with not only housing, but I also think that we need to start taking and looking at measures to returning to normal, so to speak. I think that we can responsibly do that while protecting the vulnerable. I think that that's important. If we keep mandating that restaurants can only do certain things and people have to do certain things, then that's going to strongly impact every business in this town and how much business this place generates. But at the end of the day, you can't run the town if you don't have a workforce. You're not going to have a workforce if you don't have housing. The fact that we don't have land already, it just needs to be priority number one. I think that the entrance is great. I think the park is great. I think those are all really good ideas. But if this is going to cost X amount of dollars, as Tom would point out, very, very expensive with hardly any land to build. I think that if we end up spending all that money on those developments and we shelf housing for another 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, we're going to end up with a big base village and a big center and a whole big infrastructure and no workforce to support it, which means more commuters, more people from out of town, and an entourage of other problems that are going to, come after that. So I think that two biggest things are supporting our workforce, and we can do that with housing. I think that we can also start looking at maybe scaling back some of the regulations that have been put in place so we can return to normal safely while protecting people who are vulnerable to the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are about to wrap up our session, but first we'd like to end by giving each candidate a 90-second closing statement. And serendipitously, we worked out the programming, so we went all full circle, and Tom, we'll get to start with you.
All right. Well, I'm very impressed about your timekeeping. You planned this very well. My comments are addressed to hopefully people that are watching tonight. It has been an honor to speak to our community tonight. All the candidates here have qualifications to serve on town council. I hope you will find my experience as chairman of the Planning Commission, past president of Rotary, a knowledgeable architect, and 52 years of experience in our village makes me uniquely qualified to serve you on our town council. If I am elected, I will devote myself to continuing the extraordinary success of our village, preserving its natural character, and building its vitality and sustainability. If elected, I promise I will always be available to listen to all of our residents, and I will always act in the best interest of you, the community. Thank you.
Jeff, would you like 90 seconds?
All right. Thank you very much. What I want to do is be a partner to the residents of Snowmass Village. I certainly know I don't have all the answers, and I'm going to be open to the thoughts of the people that live here, their ideas, their concerns, and I'm going to be the same with council colleagues, commissions, and advisory boards. As far as what I bring a lot of management that I didn't talk about. I bring listening skills. The cornerstone of my profession was listening to people, not just sound bouncing off the ears, but actually listening and understanding and looking for subtleties in communication. So I place a high value on actually listening to people, and I do bring that strength. I practiced it for 40 years, and I trained it for almost 40 years. This is not a job I'm going to need at this point in my life. What I want to do is be of service. That's where I'm coming from. I feel like more than ever, especially with the isolation of COVID, we need to connect as a community, and I want to be a part of that community building process going forward. So in sum, I want to work for the voters of this village. I aspire to be what Gregory Bateson called a difference that makes a difference. I want to thank everybody for your consideration. I would say, invite you to say, let's move forward together. And I do want to thank the Times, the Daily News, and GrassRoots for this opportunity for myself and for all of us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having us all here tonight. As a town council member, you're not one man. You are the focal point of the community, and it's your job to take the ideas and bring them together to a council, share those ideas in an open, positive way. I am a positive guy. I'm very optimistic. I'm a team player. I am one of the few that is actively working in the community. 5 days a week, you'll find me at the Elk Camp Meadows, where you can just look for the guy in the black vest. I'm the guy up there, and we'll go for a ski run or snowboard, sit on a chairlift, and have a meaningful conversation. Town council members are here for the people, and I want to be one of those guys that is here for the people. And when everything is said and done, we are not a resort town. We are a mountain community that just happens to have a resort in it. So let's focus on that, and let's keep it community driven. Thanks.
Matt?
Thank you. As Snowmass Village continues to develop housing, parks, trails, Base Village, and the Snowmass Center, my experience as a property manager and housing operations manager will be very helpful. I like things done on time, on budget, and done right the first time. Most importantly, I will encourage that housing be first priority before starting future developments. We have to bounce back strong from COVID-19, as most businesses and citizens of Snowmass have been negatively impacted by this pandemic. I live here, I work here, and I am raising a young family here. I am personally and professionally committed to ensuring that Snowmass thrives as quickly and as safely as possible. Being honest, having integrity, listening well, and putting others before themselves are important qualities to have on town council. So vote for Matthew Owens in 2020. And also tomorrow at the Daily Diner from 3 till 6, I'm doing a meet and greet. Jeff will also be there. We're doing a little combo meet and greet there. So if you want to meet either one of us and share your ideas, we will be there to listen from 3 to 6 tomorrow. And since I've got a little bit of time left, it looks like, I would like to give a quick shout out to a few people that I know are watching. The Handler family, my wife and baby Grace, and Joe Nichols, if you're watching. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thanks. Alyssa?
Sorry, there was just a really big gust of wind. Anyways, thank you guys again for hosting the Squirm Night. I just want to clarify really quickly something that Gray said earlier. He said it was 10 months until we go bankrupt. It's actually 410 days until we begin to even dip into our reserves for the town. So I just wanted to clarify that. I know that COVID has affected people in so many ways. And I will say for me, working at the food bank has been an amazing way to connect with the community, for me to be the eyes and ears of town council and pulse of what we're doing and how we can best help people that are struggling. The Mayor's Task Force, the Love a Local campaign, these were all wonderful things, and we need to continue to keep our pulse on the community and on the business owners and what's going to get them through the winter and the days and months ahead. I bring with me invaluable insight to this town council, ensuring that families and women have a voice on our council. And I assure you that this village, this town is my life, my family, my community, my school, my everything. I want to keep on doing what I am doing to support our community. And I hope that you will consider supporting me like I've supported you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much for those.
Thank you. We would like to thank the Snowmass Town Council candidates for appearing tonight. Jeff, Gray, Matt, Alyssa, and Tom. Thank you for taking the time and give the voters a little more insight into you. We'd also like to thank John Masters and the crew at GrassRoots TV for airing and recording the event. And we'd like to thank Travis Elliott and the town of Snowmass Village for letting us use the chambers tonight. This forum has been recorded and can be found on the websites and the Facebook pages for the Aspen Times and the Snowmass Sun, as well as the Daily News and GrassRoots TV's YouTube channel and grassrootstv.org. A reminder that you can go to pickandvotes.com for more information on voting and registering for the November 3rd election. Until next time, I'm David Krause of the Aspen Times and Snowmass Sun, along with Megan Tackett of the Aspen Daily News and the crew from GrassRoots TV. We thank you all for joining us tonight, and please remember to get out and vote.
Thank you.